Welcome everybody to Judy's Creations in Crochet. This is October the 28th, 2021. Today, let's first talk about what I am wearing, and then I'm going to take it off because it's a little bit warm for today. This is I'm wearing it right now, much like a fashion scarf or an infinity scarf, but it is a very, very long wrap. And it is made from an adaptation of a pattern I got that was a long shawl, you might say. This is a little narrower than I like for a shawl, but it happens to be 9 feet long. And it gave me the pattern to get started, and it alternated colors, and I just decided to wing it and change colors when I want and put in the lacy row wherever I felt like it to make it not look planned. And it is very, very soft, and it is long enough to definitely wrap around your shoulders. My only regret, I guess, is that I didn't make it wider. So most of the time it's going to get worn as, well, that didn't work out the other way. It's going to get worn as a big long scarf. Now, the yarn I used, all three of them are from Expression Fiber Arts, and they are alpaca silk. The blue tealy color is an alpaca silk DK. And I didn't have any more DK. These colors went really well together, but this was an alpaca silk DK, and the other two colors, the purple and the mixture, the variegated, were alpaca silk lace. And I find lace most of the time just a little too thin to work with. So here is the lace. And I simply doubled it. You can see it right there coming off the skein doubled. I doubled it. And this is another skein I had of the other color that went in the middle. And it's also an alpaca silk lace called Canvas. That's the color. I don't know the colors of the other two. And I'll just tell you about it. It's 50% baby alpaca and 50% mulberry silk. Within the lace hank, there are 552 meters or 604 yards. There is less in the alpaca silk DK. I think it's might be 300, but I think it's less. Anyway, these are the three yarns I used to make this. And alpaca silk lace and alpaca silk DK just feel wonderful. And of course, that mulberry silk gives it a very silky feeling, and it's very, very, very comfortable. So that's what I'm wearing today. And I think it's going to get in my way, so I'm going to take it off for now. So today I said I was going to finish up with the items I made in the summer. This is a hodgepodge of different things, and I'm going to start with Hope. I've decided she's Hope. And this is a poncho. And like most of the time, I started with a pattern up at the top, and then afterwards I sort of shift to my own thing to make sure that I would use the entire cake. It is what's called a gradient cake, and so I put a little more lace in it, a little more cluster, but I sort of followed the pattern. I followed it very loosely. So it is made with this cake, Republic, Etrofil Republic. And it is a gradient cake, big cake, like the others. And it is 100% recycled cotton. Now, this is an item that would make Reggie very, very happy. Recycled cotton. And in the cake, it has 1,000 meters. And I believe I would have gotten this from Hobium. But I will for sure put a link in the description box of everything I talk about today. I will put a link in the description box below. So that's that one. Now I'm going to take this off of her because I'm going to put some of my other items on her as well. So the next item I want to show you is a poncho. And you remember that I said I did some testing for Reggie this summer, and this is another item that I tested for her. And this is called, I hope I have the name right, Reggie. I'm pretty sure this is the Toontown Shawl. Now it's a shorter shawl and very wide at the bottom. It's a very easy pattern because I think you can see it's a lot of chains and double crochets. You just have to keep track of your chains and double crochets. That's the back. You can see it comes up a bit to the front. And the yarn I used for this one, I'll just turn it sideways a bit. First of all, the pattern can be found on Reggie's J Hook Crochet Etsy shop. Again, I will link it. And the yarn I used for this was Caron Skinny Cakes. And you could use whatever yarn you wanted, but I chose that because I had quite a bit. And I didn't know how much it was going to take when I started. It ended up taking me one complete cake and part of another one. Okay, it's very, very full when you get farther down. So, just so you know. Now, skinny cake, where's the information here? This is called Blueberry Pudding, and it's 100% acrylic, and it has 727 meters in a cake. Makes me wonder if I only used part of one, but I'm pretty sure I used one and that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I only used that much of one cake. And of course, you know, Caron cakes can be bought in Michael's. But I will try to put a link probably to Yarnspirations for the information on it. So that is the first shawl I want to show you. The next shawl is also a Reggie pattern from J Hook Crochet. Now this one I didn't get in on the test, unfortunately, but I really like the shawl, and it is one of those patterns where I will likely do a second one. And this one I have actually posted on Facebook in her on her Facebook page, and you can see again, open and solid. Again, not a difficult pattern to follow. Beautiful, beautiful colors. And it did take almost 2 balls. I did a little color controlling. I wish I'd color controlled at the beginning. You know, I don't care for yellow. I might have left the yellow out. But this is the yarn. This is what was left over, plus a little bit of odds and ends. And it's a mandala cake. Just plain mandala. I've got it taped and it's going to rip if I pull it apart. But it's just a plain mandala cake in the colorway Nifflers. And it is 100% acrylic again. And there are 590 yards or 540 meters in a ball. And you can see that I did not use 2 full balls. But this is one of those patterns that you can stop wherever you want. You can make it whatever length. So if you just have one cake, make it just one cake. I think the first cake ended in here somewhere. So it's still halfway decent length, but I wanted it longer. Mandala. Lots of use for mandalas. Okay, next I have a very unusual, and I'm going to hold this one up, a very unusual shawl called the Cyclone Shawl. And it is very, very circular. And you can see the swirls in it. I think that's why it's called Cyclone. See the swirls in it. And I always try to remember now, since I started my channel, to attach the label for the yarn I used. And this time I used Mandala Sparkle. I made a big order of mandala cakes. Somebody was having a sale this summer, and I bought a number of them. And the color of this one is called Aquila. And I did not find a leftover of it. I think you can see. No, it doesn't show up too well. But it's a sparkle. As it says, it's Mandala Sparkle. And it is 98% acrylic and 2% the metallic. And these cakes have 300 meters or 328 yards. So that is another shawl that I made this summer. And I've been in the process of putting these in on my Facebook business page. So please feel free to go to my Facebook business page and have a look around at what is there. Everything I've made is pretty much posted there. Next, we have a poncho, another poncho, and this is a different style poncho. First of all, I'm going to hold it up and then I'll try to put it on Hope. I hope you can see that fillet, and I think it is called flyaway fillet. I don't know, I have the impression that somebody called it any which way fillet, but it's become a very popular pattern lately. And I first saw it, Fibre Spider, and I'll link his tutorial. Fibre Spider was doing a blanket out of this. Now I really like the pattern, but I didn't want it in a blanket. So then if you look at my very first video, I started a top where I was doing the front and back panel in this pattern. And I think I linked that top, I'm not sure. And they didn't match. Remember, I didn't have the same dye lots. So I am working on fixing that. I'll show it to you sometime. But meanwhile, I thought, well, you know what? Let's try and make a poncho. That seems to be a very common thing these days, is 2 panels put together to make a poncho. So here we have the poncho. And I put extra rows to seam the top, of course. We needed a shoulder. But I did not sew a side seam. What I did was I put 2 buttons on it. And these are handmade wooden buttons that I got from a Canadian seller on Etsy. And he takes the limbs and branches of trees and he cuts them and makes buttons. I really, really like them, and they're a good size, And that was exactly what I was looking for. Now, I think I'm going to leave this on her while I show, the yarn that I used is Ferris wheel. And this is what was left over from, I believe it was 4 balls. Used 4 balls of Ferris wheel. There you go. Ferris wheel, again, a Lion brand yarn. And the information about it is 100% acrylic. And it says it's machine washable and dryable. That would be your choice. I wouldn't do it. And one cake or ball has 270 yards, 247 meters. And of course you can tell these are colors that I absolutely love. I do have Ferris wheel in 1 or 2 other colors. I know I have it in the black and white, but I think for some reason I maybe have it in another color as well. And maybe I better take this off her. And my final make from the summer is something called a Rawana. I've been talking about that for a bit. A Rawana is basically a square back and 2 long front pieces. So here's one long front piece, and here's the other long front piece. Some people would call this a poncho. Some might call it a cape. These are the long front pieces, and it has a square back. And once again, you can see many patterns for these in a variety of stitches. Some of them are just very plain, just plain double crochet. Now, I was of two minds of whether to sew the sides or not. But I got thinking that, yes, it can be worn this way, much like a sweater or cape. But if you were out and had a dressy one, you could take one side and throw it over your shoulder and make it a little bit dressy. So for that reason, I didn't want to seam up the sides. So what I did instead, to give somebody the option to close it, was I put a little loop on the side and a large button. So they could button it up, and I did it on both sides, but I left that one undone. They could button it up if they wished to keep it closed at the sides. Now this one is quite big. I think when I make another one, and I will make another one, I'll make it a little bit smaller, not quite as wide. Now, the pattern I used is a pattern from Blue Eyed Style. She doesn't write patterns, but she does tutorials, and she lives in the Okanagan Valley in British Columbia, Canada. And she has a fairly new channel as well. You might want to check her out. And she did a tutorial showing the stitch and showing how she put it together at the top, because it's not just straight seamed, because it has a shell. And she did the back in one piece and the 2 fronts separately, and then put them together at the top, because she wanted the shells on front and back to face up. She didn't want to start face up and then have them face down. So she shows very, very well how she put the neck together in her tutorial. And I will link that below for you to see this Rawana. But there are many other Rawanas out there. And she I don't know if she calls it a Rawana. She may call it something else. And the yarn I used for it, was Mandala Tweed stripes. This is a number 4. The color of this one is called White Elephant, and it is, again, 100% acrylic. I found that I used 4 balls, and none of the balls were wound the same, so you can see it already in the front. One side and the other side don't look the same, and the back looks different. Not much you can do about that. That's how the balls come. You don't have any way to even color control because they just seem to be all different colors. There are, did I say this, 390 meters in the ball, or 426 yards. And it took me pretty much all of the 4 balls. If there was anything left over, it was just a tiny little bit of nothing. So that finally gets us to the end of all of the summer makes that I wanted to get shown and wanted to get posted onto my business page. Now, if you remember last week, I decided that I would issue myself a challenge. So I decided to go around the house and find yarns I have never used. Well, I have 16 here, and I'm going to put a picture in right here. These are the 16 yarns that I put together, and I'll tell you a little bit about each of them. But after I got them together, I found I had all kinds of other yarns that I have never used, sitting there waiting for me to try. Now, the picture I just showed you only had 15 in it. I missed putting in this one, which is Expressions Fiber Art yarn, and it is called a Mall Fingering. I'm going to tell you about each one of the yarns, but I'm going to make it quick and brief. I'll tell you more about it later. So this one, a Mall Fingering, is 60% baby alpaca, 20% linen, 20% mulberry silk, and it has 400 meters in the skein. And I definitely know I'm going to put these 3 blues together and make a shawl that is a free pattern from expressionfiberarts.com. So I'm going to tell you more about what I'm going to do once I very quickly show you the rest of the yarns. But this one was missing from the picture. And the other Expression Fiber Arts yarn that I might use is called Mirage Sport. And it is 70% merino, 10% baby camel, 10% cashmere, and 40% mulberry silk. Again, very soft like this one. Even though there's linen in this, you can't feel it. So those are 2 from Expression Fiber Arts. And the third one I came up with that I've never used from them is called Twisted Tweed Sport. Now, I know what I'm going to do with this, and it is not going to use this color. The colors I'm going to use are already in a project bag, but I'll just quickly tell you about it. It is 42% fine merino wool, 43% superwash merino wool, 15% Donegal, and there are 384 yards in a skein, and I've already caked this. I have a project I'm going to do, which I will talk more about, from Expression Fiber Arts. They're doing a crochet challenge in November, and I'll talk to you about that later. So some of the other yarns I have here, and I'm not going to go into detail. One of them is a sheep cheese, and this one is called Woolly Whirl. So it's a little heavier than the regular one that is cotton, because this one has 70% cotton and 30% wool. And I've been thinking for a while that I wanted to make a poncho. It'd still be lightweight, and I'm thinking I might want to make a poncho out of that. Then I have this yarn, very soft, fuzzy, and I don't know anything about it. I just happened to get it, I think, off of Hirschner's, and you can see it's called Nob Hill. Artesia is the line, and it's 55% acrylic, 21% polyester, and 16% nylon, and 8% wool. Again, when I use one of these, I will tell you more about it. So I don't think I'm going to read every one of them. This will make a very long video. The next one I got is Kartopu Brown Chain Spun with Sparkles. That's all I'm going to say about it. The next ones you'll know. I've never used a Mandala Ombre. And I have this in several colors, so I'm not saying I will use this color particularly if I do use a Mandala Ombre, but I will maybe use a Mandala Ombre. Another mandala I have is called Winter Nights, and I have this in two different colors. Again, fuzzy, and it has sequins in it. Can you see the sequins shown? There's one at the beginning. Very, very soft and fuzzy. Another Lion brand I haven't used, and again, very soft. It has a few sequins, not as much as this one. And this is Sunset Nights. And this one I have plans for. In fact, I have 3 different colors, and I'm going to use all of them. And this is Mandala Thick and Quick. It is a number 6. And I'm not used to I'm not one to use 6s. I don't even hardly ever use 5s. The only thing I use that's heavy like this is the Bernat blanket to make baby Afghans. But otherwise, I don't make things this. But I do have something in mind for this, and you'll be hearing more about this in November sometime. So, Mandala Thick and Quick. And the last Mandala Lion brand one I have is Mandala Watercolors. And I just bought it to see what it was like. I have 2 cakes or maybe 3 cakes of this, and it's so soft. This is a number 5, and I want to make something with it. But please, this one, and this one, all 3 of these I really want to use, and I'm not really sure. I think I can figure out something with this, but these 2, I don't know. Maybe you could leave me some suggestions below as some good ideas that I could make with these. We'll see. And then and I've never used any kind of ombre, and this is a different kind of ombre than the Mandala ombre. This is from Craft Smart, their value yarn, and again, this is Michael's brand, and I think I got 3 of these. So any suggestions you might have that would make an ombre, take in the full effect of an ombre, you know, I want to do the right project so it really looks good in this kind of yarn. And finally, I have 4 other yarns that I'm just going to quickly show you and not tell you anything about. And that is this souffle, looks like a cone. This tiramisu, again, looks like a cone. This one is called donut, really big, heavy cake, fuzzy, and candy. And the reason I'm not going to tell you anything about those 4 is that they are part of a purchase I made from a company in Bulgaria. And I told you that in the summer I made purchases from 3 different companies that are very different, and I wanted to show you those products. And I didn't want to do yarn hauls right off the bat, 1, 2, 3. So I tried to space them out. So next week, I am going to show you the yarns I got from this company in Bulgaria. All of them are completely different. You won't find anywhere else. And they all have names like this: souffle, candy, donut, muffin, tiramisu. Bring a snack with you because you might get hungry listening next week to these. Let me tell you about these yarns. They're all really different. And in fact, I just made a second order from this company. We'll see if they're here in time to show you, because I got some different ones. But I'm really looking forward to using some of these. Now, this is what's going to happen. It started out last week, 10 weeks to the end. I've already started on one project and I have 16 yarns. And I said last week what I would do is try to use 8 different yarns from this stash, not the other ones in the house. 8 different yarns from this stash before the end of the year. So then on the very last Thursday of the year, and we're there pretty soon, only 10 weeks, which means only 9 weeks till Christmas. Or now 9, that'll be 8 weeks till Christmas. So on the very last week of the year, what I'm going to do is show you those 8 projects that I did and tell you what yarn I used, tell you more about the yarns, and give you links to the yarns and to the projects that I made. So I don't think I'm going to put links to all 16 of these yarns today. I'm just going to do the items that I showed you at the beginning of the video. And I will link the others at the end of the year, the ones that I use. And maybe during the next 10 weeks, 8 weeks, 9 weeks, I'll even show you a little bit of progress I'm making on a couple of these projects as I do them. So that brings us to the end of this week. Until next week, happy hooking.